move on the agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance by the Mercedes High School JROTC and invocation by Mr. Hernandez. Everybody please stand.
Sir, the colors are present.
Host the colors.
Thank you, sir. Present colors.
Present arms.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Please bow our heads. Lord, give us insight to lead with integrity, that our decisions may reflect what is right and good. Keep us from the short-sightedness and pettiness. Help us make the decisions that are for the good of all, and guard us from the blind self-interest. Dear Lord, grant us humility to always seek your will in all we do and say. All glory be to you, loving God, now and always through Christ and the Holy Spirit, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Carry colors.
Order arms. Right face.
Right face. Forward march.
Special thank you to the JROTC for the presentation of the colors, and thank you for the prayer, Mr. Hernandez. Moving on to open forum public comment. Mrs. Sines, did we have anybody sign up? No. Moving on to action agenda A1, discussion and possible action to reorganize the officers of the Board of Trustees. We're going to go ahead and move it out and open it up for the office of president. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Chairman Marco Garcia for Board President.
I second.
We have a nomination for myself. I do accept. Are there any other nominations?
Chairman, I make a motion that we go ahead and cease the nomination for School Board President.
Okay, we have a motion to cease the nomination process. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Now we need a vote on the nomination. So there is a nomination for myself to remain the school board president. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
A motion from Ms. Delgado. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Moving on to the office of vice president, I open the floor for a nomination. Do I have a
Chairman,
nomination?
Chairman, I make a motion to nominate Mr. Rodriguez for Vice President.
We have a nomination for Mr. I'm sorry, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Delgado. Mr. Rodriguez, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez has accepted the nomination. Do we have any other names in consideration for vice president? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the
Chairman, I
nomination?
make a motion that we go ahead and cease nomination
Okay, we have
for
a-
Vice President.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Delgado. Now all in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Moving along to the voting on the nomination. We have the name of Mr. Rodriguez for vice president. Do I have a motion to name him
I
vice
so
president?
move.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Congratulations, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. Appreciate the support.
So, may I say something?
Yes, of course.
Yes, sir. Yes, members of the staff, board members, nothing gives me greater joy than to pass pretty much the baton. It's been such a privilege not only as a board member, but as an officer. You know, it's a commitment, and like I said, it gives me no greater joy because I know that we're on to good things, and you know, just guidance and trust. And I do thank you, sir, for accepting the nomination.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do the best we can.
Okay, no, thank you. We are now moving on to the office of secretary. I now open the floor for nominations to the office of
Chairman,
secretary.
I make a motion that, I'm sorry, Chairman, I nominate Ms. Agal for secretary.
Okay, we have a nomination. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. Rodriguez. Mrs. Delgado, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay, we do. Do we have any other names in contention for the office of secretary? Hearing none, do we have a motion to cease the nomination process?
I so move,
We have
Chairman.
a motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote, sorry, now we have, no, we do. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign?
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes 6-1. Moving along on the nomination, we have a nomination for Mrs. Delgado to be the secretary of the Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
I so move, Chairman.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign?
Nay.
And the motion passes 6-1. Congratulations, Mrs. Delgado. You're not moving too far away. Okay, so I think we've got switching of the
Sir,
the
Mr.
panels
Lewis?
up here. Yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Officers.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
So now, in custom with every reorganization, we have to consider and approve the resolution authorizing the new bank signatures. This is custom every time we do this. Do we have any questions for the superintendent? No. So then we need a motion to approve this.
I so move, Chairman.
We have a motion, Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign.
Nay.
And let the record reflect that the motion passed 6-1. Number 3, discussion, consideration, and possible action to appoint a board committee to advise administration on strategic analysis of budget and personnel, requested by Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. President, members of the community, staff, as Mr. Hernandez has stated quite clearly last couple of meetings, our district, and all of you saw the presentation, or many of you saw the presentation ordered by Ms. Garza. We're going to, as a district, try to move forward as best we can financially, as well as academically, but everything's important. And so right now, with this motion that we have, or this item on the agenda that we have, we are going to be looking very carefully, very strategically, as it says there, to look at our budget and our personnel, because we want to make sure that our district is financially in good shape for our students and our staff. And so I would like us to consider this, and this would be a directive to the superintendent and to our board. Mr. Hernandez, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess this is the message to everyone, you know, the staff, the students, but I have to make a note to the taxpayers of Mercedes ISD. brings no joy whatsoever to bring it up, is on the last one. And those were some tough times, some bad times, and I don't want to repeat that again. As you all know, I'm not of, let's say, a well-off family. I was a migrant, ESL. But I learned I learned when I was real young, during hard times, you have to live within your means. And we've lost a lot of student enrollment, as you can see the presentation. To me, it's a challenge, and and the board has been working diligently with the superintendent and her staff. We've been on top of this, but now it's time that we're going to have to face the reality. You cannot manage the student-staff ratios that we were in the past. And I have no pleasure discussing that at all with you, at all. But we owe a lot to the taxpayers. We're the stewards of millions and millions of dollars. And this is where we're going to ask. We're going to ask the staff, the students, the community, that we're going to make some really tough decisions. And just bear with us and just tell us that we're going to get past this. We always do. That's the best of Mercedes. We survive and we go forward and we get better. That's all I have to say, Chairman.
Okay. So then, were there any other comments by the board? Hearing none, we have an item for possible action. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1.
I'd like to add, the reason that I'm voting nay is they have previously approved a consultant for this year's budget, which is another cost that the district incurred. Right now the entire community is aware our financial standing with the district, for our district, is not in good standing. So that has incurred an additional cost to the district. Now with approving another consultant, and this is a professional consultant to advise administration on strategic analysis of budget, again, budget and personnel. I think that we should have the qualified individuals to do that within our district that are already on board. We've already had that consultant approved for budget. And we also have an analysis that was performed by TASB a couple of years ago, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, in which no follow-up was done in regards to the staffing, from what I understand. So I think that instead of incurring an additional cost to the district, we can better utilize those resources with our staff that we already have on board and utilize that TASB staffing audit that was performed in about 2022 to use that as a baseline in moving the district forward.
Mr. President, I believe the item that Ms. Vallejo is referring to is actually the next item, but I'm sure that was going to come up nonetheless. But this
Yes.
item is to appoint a committee, a board committee,
Yes.
to work with Ms. Vanessa and her staff to look at every possible resource, strategy, so that we take advantage of all the information we've gathered from the consultant that we hired in May, I believe, to help us with the budget. So all that information is there, including the TASB study that was done a couple of years ago that Ms. Vallejo just referenced. So that's the motion that I made, that Mr. Hernandez seconded, and it's only that at this point. This is item 8-3.
Yes, sir. So then we'll move on to the next item, discussion and consideration and possible action to hire a professional consultant to advise the administration on a strategic analysis of budget and personnel. So, Mr. Rodriguez, do you have anything you'd like to add there?
Yes, sir. This would only be, I'd like to share with the board and the rest of the community and staff, this would only be if after the board committee has met with administration, that we feel it necessary to obtain additional resources, additional individual to help us with this, to help us down the line with the decisions that need to be made by the district, that if we feel as a board that we need additional help, then we will obtain it. We want to make sure that we're covering all our bases, that we've looked at everything possible, and if necessary, seek outside help. It could be TASB once again, Region 1. It doesn't have to be a particular individual. We have no one in mind. But just so that we have that already approved if we need to move forward with that. Mr. Hernandez, anything you want to add?
Oh, absolutely. 2 points I want to bring up. Ms. Benitez, a tough question, but an estimated cost on the staff development for your staff, ballpark figure, is it $1 million, $500,000, or
For staff development?
For staff
All staff development?
ballpark figure? A lot.
A few $100,000, yes, for sure.
Okay. And that's my point is, I have no issues with having a consultant because even though a background in mathematics, computer science, and database, blah, 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 there's nothing wrong with ever once in a while is sharpening your saw. I have no issue with consultants. That's why they're there. An extra eye on the issues that we're having. We have consultants for the insurance. We have consultants on the bonds. It's a peace of mind. You're investing, and you want to make sure you get every penny, and you take care of all the funding that you have on your particular budget. Second point I want to bring up is there was an individual, and she was spot on. There were 100+ years of education, business, and we let certain things pass. You know what? I applaud that individual because they're right. So even an educated person with a PhD and master's and a bachelor's, we can still make the mistakes. We've seen it in the past. Do you recall? Oh, no, but Mr. Hernandez, he's mean, and he just, no. Mr. Hernandez needs to learn like everybody else. And this is a golden opportunity just to make sure we learn, we make the right things. And referring back to the TASB, this is a general guideline. And this is an issue that I've had in the past where certain individuals in the community says, well, how come we're not like McAllen ISD? Or how come we're not Charlotte ISD? And how come we're not, excuse me, we're one of the poorest districts in the USA, but yet we still produce our engineers, our teachers, our custodians, our AC, our HVAC. Yes, they might not get their bachelor's and the master's. I've met a lot of people that have PhDs and masters. In Sabasca, I'd rather get somebody who has 10 years of work in the HVAC than somebody who just came out of the university. And this is why I support having a consultant. They have experience. They've gone through the trials and tribulation of every district and having financial issues. But I yield, Chairman. That's my 2 points. I wanted to discuss that with the community and the staff. Thank you, sir.
Are there any other comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Garcia, the process here as far as the, appointing a board committee to advise administration, and then, if for some reason we come to, it's just too difficult, then we do reach out to a consultant. No one else knows better our district than the people in this room. We know that, we know where there's strengths and we know where there's weaknesses. And if we can count on each other and we can build this up together, what an accomplishment. What a step. Because this is our district. So it empowers this committee and it empowers this board to say, we can do this. This is, hate to say, this is our mess, let's clean it up. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, we have an item for consideration and possible action. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
So moved to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Second for Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the same sign.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Moving on to the business office. Number 1, consider an order authorizing defeasance and redemption of a portion of the district's outstanding unlimited tax bonds and approving an escrow agreement and all other instruments and procedures related thereto. Mrs. Garza.
Good evening, Board. Before you is the order authorizing the defeasance and redemption of the unlimited tax bonds. This is the order that Mr. Robert Traylor came in to speak about in order to maintain our 34 cents in our INS tax rate. And so in order to do that, we need to pass this bond so that we can maintain that rate, and we won't have to decrease it at this moment. For the-
And this was, just in case we choose to go out again for another
In the
issue.
event, yes, that will surely assist us. That way, the tax rate doesn't come down, and we end up having to pull it all the way back up again.
Okay, so do we have any questions from the board?
On the $1 million to defease and redeem certain bonds, Ms. Garza, what liability do we have on that, or what will that incur?
Well, whatever we have in reserve at the end of the year, we can use that to pay toward that bond, and I believe it's the bond 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the refunding bond series 2015. And so whatever excess we have in that fund, or debt service fund, we can turn around and use that reserve to pay off principal, which will save us on interest.
Just like you mentioned during the public
Yes.
hearing, right? Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Hearing none, do we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Admin is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I have a motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Howell. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to number 2, discussion and possible actions to approve the proposed 24-25 district budget. Mrs. Garza.
Yes, before you is the budget board book. I have put that together. It goes into greater detail as far as funds, functions, and some of the other funds that don't need to be adopted with the current budget, but are included in here. And so also some of the, let me go through it. All the federal programs are as well are in here, the debt service, the internal service, which is our workers' comp, our unemployment, our, unemployment as well, and the health insurance fund as well. We also have the summary of finance and supporting documents, which is our summary of finance template, in which we put in all of the data, and it turns around and gives us some of the allotments. It also has the INS and M&O tax rate. We include our ADA, our proposed ADA as well, and so it'll create our funding for the year as far as state funding goes, and then we also have an estimated amount for our foundation and our available school fund.
Does the board have any questions?
I know that on your executive summary there on the first page, and then we're looking at an ADA of 3689.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mhm.
And at 90% attendance.
Yes, sir. So if we take the ending attendance of 4,100, and we take the 90%, we come at a 3689, 3690. I think it's a rounding little error there, but it comes out at 3689.
And so I know the superintendent and her staff are looking very carefully at making sure that we are above the 90%. And I feel confident that we
Yes,
will.
sir. I do too.
And that'll mean that our shortfall will be
Will
decreased.
decrease, yes. Anything that, any ADA that we come above the 3689 will be a plus, and we can add back into our budget to decrease that deficit. Yes.
Any other questions from the
I
board?
just had a quick question. You had addressed it before, but just for sake of our conversation, what was the student allotment? Just ballpark.
6160.
6160. So if we hit at least maybe 3% or 5%, let's see. Okay, so we add another 100 students. 16 0. So if we could just maintain, you know, we'll still be in deficit,
Yes,
correct?
you'd still be in the deficit, but anything above the 3689 would be a plus.
So if we hit, let's say,
It's
4,000,
it's around
which would be-
600,000 for every 100. So, so, anything above that would certainly help.
So let's get our kids in school.
yeah, so we're looking like maybe it would be fantastic we hit 96.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think it's feasible.
It's
Most,
feasible,
a lot
yes.
of districts hit 96, 95. Okay. Nice.
Thank you. Were there any other questions from the board? Hearing none, Mrs. Vanessa, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, we're seeking approval.
Okay, the superintendent has made a recommendation to approve. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Howell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. I would like to thank Mrs. Garza, the finance staff, the payroll staff, the human resources department, federal programs, curriculum, everybody who had their hand in putting this budget together. I want to thank you for the long hours, the hard work, the correcting of things that were probably miscoded. Thank you for your time and effort. We know it wasn't easy getting this put together, and your work is appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Oh,
Garza.
yes, I'm sorry, Mrs. Venecia, you and your staff for doing that. I apologize.
Right, okay. And I'd like to say, being relatively new to the district,
Mhm.
you know, tremendous job. You've been here for quite a while, but in the role. But Ms. Garza, your staff,
Been here a while.
relatively new. You have burned midnight oil. You are always, you know,
Thank
you're
you so
always
much.
there. You're always there. We can count on you. There's been evenings here that we will stop by and you have, you know, you can have reports for us, you can have figures, and I don't think maybe you sleep, eat, breathe, budget. I appreciate your efforts and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Moving on to the third item under the business office, discussion and possible action to approve the ordinance adopting the 2024-2025 tax rate. Mrs. Garza?
Yes, we have a resolution for our adopting our tax rate, and it's in your packet. Mr. Garcia will make the motion for it. There's a specific wording and language that goes with
Yes.
it. And our final tax rate is 1.1269.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board? No. Hearing none. Do we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Yes, we're seeking approval.
Okay, so there's a recommendation from the superintendent, and I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.1269, which is effectively a 9.81% increase to the tax rate. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Discussion and possible action to approve the 2023-2024 Budget Amendment General Operating Fund Number 7. Mrs. Garza?
Yes, we have prepared a budget amendment with some of the figures, since we have not closed out the year yet, and we still have a lot of, we still have another payroll, I believe. The monthly payroll just closed today, and we have one more biweekly to do. So we prepared an estimate of what we believe will be our ending number, and this is the worst-case scenario. So we want to make sure that we have enough cushion in there to cover whatever costs come. We also have not done our accrual for the year, and our accrual will contain an additional, I believe, 5 days for the District of Innovation, where we're starting earlier. And so we took an estimate of that as well and included it in there. So we're hoping that this will be the worst-case scenario.
Do we have any questions from the board?
So from 4.0 to 4.6?
Yes, and this is assuming, I'm sorry.
Well, the additional amount is what you're referring to as the worst case.
Yes,
It could turn out a little bit better.
yes, sir. This
Based
was
on the state
actually an
revenue?
estimate, yes.
Okay.
just got a comment real quick, ma'am. I think Mr. Howe had brought it up. We're supposed to receive some rebate later on, correct? But
Yes,
that
sir.
one, it doesn't reflect our budget for right now.
No, it does not at the moment. We have not received notice of how much it will be. But I will touch base with Mr. Garza when he comes in today, he's already here, so that we can get some more information as far as at least the amount, so that we can create a receivable in our books.
Is it too late to ask?
I was gonna say, while we've got him here,
Can we, Mr. Soler, can we still ask him about the prescription increase?
that we spoke about during the budget workshop, or the workshop?
Yeah, this is part of the budget process.
Okay.
It's covered.
Mr. Garza? can you-
Sorry to put you on the spot, Mr. Garcia, but thank you for joining us, Mr. Garcia. The inquiring minds want to know.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were just discussing that, can we show him the slide real quick?
We had,
That, it was a 20% increase, Mr.
on our health insurance, we are showing a prescription increase.
Prescriptions.
I had to increase it for this coming year because we're showing it at 1.2 million. I know that also is reduced by the actual reimbursements that we're getting. So I'm not reflecting that here in the moment, but I know that last year we budgeted at about 850,000 for prescription costs, but they went way over the $850,000 mark. So I guess they want just a little explanation.
Sure. And President Garcia, Superintendent Valencia, and honorable members of the Board of Trustees, for the record, I'm Roger Garza. I'm your consultant for the district. What we had when we first came into the district, y'all had a kind of like a volume of people that were waiting for a prescription drug called Ozempic and Mounjaro. Some of them were for diabetes, some of them for weight loss. As we attempted to do the transition, a lot of doctors were prescribing this medication as a first-line medication. And although the district doesn't pay for weight loss, however, a lot of the doctors are using the pre-diabetic diagnosis to be able to get past that first firewall, if I can put it that way. What we've done now is we've gotten more aggressive. So what we're doing is we're attempting to obtain those drugs at a lesser cost through an international program, which we're implementing here rather quickly. So therefore, the district will be able to save money without causing any disruption to an employee who may or may not need that drug for the particular purpose that they're seeking. So in essence, we actually absorb that. However, so a lot of those drugs are subject to a rebate amount. We are pending one last rebate for this quarter. We did talk to the RX company, and they are going to advance the rebates for this last quarter, because it typically comes in quarters. So the quarter's not over, but they're going to give it to you, so you'll be able to log it in before the end of August 31st.
That's a good thing.
Is it estimation, Mr.? Do we have an estimated rebate?
There was an estimation, but again, because it goes back 6 months.
Okay.
So there's volume when they account for it, but my understanding, it was substantial. It was a substantial amount.
Okay,
You have a ballpark, I think, weren't we right around close to 500,000?
Well, that was combined.
Right,
Combined, yeah.
combined, right. Okay.
So it should be in the neighborhood of 80 to 100, I believe. And don't,
That's remaining, you mean?
yes, sir.
Okay.
It's the final quarter of the full
Okay.
quarter. Because your plan starts on 9/1, so you have actually a half a quarter, that's what they're counting. But we'll try to get that to the district as quickly as possible. And
But the overall, I mean, for the year, is substantial.
yes, sir.
And that's what we want to point out, that, some of the movies that we're making are benefiting the district.
Well, the increase that you see on the prescription drug, and then with the offset from the rebates, actually creates a flat rate, if I can say it that way. When we move a little bit more aggressive to the international program, you're going to see a sudden decrease on both ends, by the way. You'll see it on the
Insurance
rebate.
in Canada, or is it not?
Well, the firm is in Canada, yes, but they obtain it from a tier 1 country like New Zealand
Okay.
and Australia.
Were there any questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, but, even if, let's say we get, $500,000, that doesn't go to the general fund, 199, it
No,
goes to.
no, sir, it'll go back into the health insurance fund.
Health insurance.
But
Still
if
helps.
we put it as an emergency, we could if we had to, right?
We would have to look at that a little closer, but if they're in a rebate status, I believe, don't quote me on that, but I believe that we could.
Okay.
Ms. Garza, going back to the budget amendment, I'm looking at some of those that saw an increase, and there's three big ones. Instructional resources, the transportation, and the security and monitoring. I'm gonna ask Ms. Vanessa and her staff to maybe give us a little bit of a breakdown as to what were those, more specifically in terms of.
The ones that I can recall, the top of my head, were the property and casualty insurance from last year. That increase was not part of the original budget for last year, so that was part of that.
400,000 or something.
Also, I believe some of the increases that were done between, at the earlier part of the year, that was not in the original budget either. So we have to account for those by the, in order to be able to cover the cost of those by the end of the year.
On the positive side, though, in terms of media services, looking at a decrease of 600,000, a little
Yes,
over, that was
yes, sir.
good, that helped. Okay, so whatever the staff did to help facilitate that, much appreciated.
Yes,
Helped
sir.
offset a little bit, it would have been worse.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Any other questions or comment from the board? Hearing none, Mrs. Vanessa, do you have a recommendation?
Administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I have a motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. I believe on item 5, we will not be taking any action.
We will not have one for the internal service fund, so that one, there was no budget amendment required,
Okay,
but we will for the debt service, the next one.
okay. So do we need a motion to, or we can just say no action, Mr. Somebody?
I'll just say no action.
Okay.
Mhm.
On number 5, we will take no action. Moving on to number 6, discussion and possible action to approve the 23-24 budget amendment, debt service fund number 2. Mrs. Garza?
Yes, for this budget amendment, we are just trying to adjust the end of the year revenues, just to be able to close it out, and we won't have any negatives in that function.
Any questions from the board?
This is the debt service.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Hearing none, Mrs. Vanessa, do you have a recommendation?
Administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So second.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez and a second from Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Number 7, discussion and possible action to award RFP number 07-11-24, workers' compensation insurance. Mrs. Garza? Mr. Garza?
Good evening, Mr. President, Garcia and Ms. Valencia and members of the Board of Trustees. Once again, with me today is Linda Billings, one of our associates at the office. I forgot to mention her earlier. But we did solicit proposals for workers' compensation. The purpose of the solicitation was the district participates in a risk pool. And typically with risk pools, if you have a great year, you don't share in any of the profits or any of the losses. You basically just stay flat and you have your renewal, and it doesn't go up or it doesn't go down. But nonetheless, we found that the district needed to participate in some type of program to where it was able to save some money. And if it did, it was able to return back some of the money back to the district. So when we evaluated the proposals, we looked closely at the one that provided by Texas Mutual, which provides a dividend in the event that the district should have lesser losses, if you will. So the more you control your losses, the more that you participate in their dividends. So, for example, we've seen districts and entities receive $65,000 to $100,000 in dividend reimbursements. because we are trying to be aggressive and participate in chipping away at the cost of insurance, we felt that this offer from the Texas Mutual, which is owned by the state of Texas, was significant enough to be able to make this transition. The cost is $15,000 less than what you paid last year, but you'll be able to participate in the dividend program that they have once a year.
That's a win-win.
Yeah.
It's a win-win, yes, sir.
I think, Chairman, if you allow me
Yes,
just to
sir.
make a short little comment. I know when we tried to break the mold back then, I think Mr. Delgado was on board, Mr. Martinez and Mr. Howe. And we had a lot of resist, so I really appreciate the, thinking out of the box, because we had some negative feedback, but it's okay, but at the end of the school year, if I recall, I think we did have substantial rebate, correct? It's
Yeah.
actually called the dividend, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know if we were able to recall how much the dividend was with the Texas Mutual Insurance. I think it was like a year, 2 years ago, I think.
I think it was like, well, it had to have been past 2 years, because we're on the
Right.
final year with DP's Texas.
Right.
But when we tried to get some information, we didn't have it. And I believe there's one of the reps was here. Jesse, if you have that information, can you share it with us? Yeah, and in today's environment, 50,000, 60,000 is a substantial amount of money, particularly when insurances are going up every single year. So we're trying to reverse the course, and we're trying to take very aggressive measures to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's fair, it's prevalent, I mean, it's relevant that we have that conversation in front of the taxpayers in Mercedes and the staff, is that, we're looking, we're trying to save money as we can. And of course, we've had those tough conversations with the powers to be, and I'll leave it like that. But, thank you so much, Ms. Mentor, your staff, and Mr. Garza and
Thank you, sir.
Texas Mutual, I appreciate that.
And Mr. Garza, with incentives, when it comes to workers' comp, I mean, it's good that we're looking into the savings, the cost and the dividends that we get in return. But more importantly is the health and the well-being of our
Employees.
faculty, of employees, yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry, of our employees. It's very important to keep them healthy, it's very important to keep them safe, and, whatever we can do, certainly it helps our district.
Yes, ma'am, we
Thank
put
you.
employees first, always. I mean, whatever's best for if they're injured, we want to make sure that they get proper treatment and that they have the opportunity to return back to work. So that's our first priority always. So we're trying to make sure that even the carriers understand that. We're not here to intimidate employees, we're here to help them and point them in the right direction.
And it's good as well, and I appreciate that, I appreciate those efforts, but it would just as important to have preventative programs so that we are always thinking safety first.
Exactly, and we're actually going to make some future recommendations, probably at the next meeting, to be able to bring some loss control services to the district, to be able to control more of its exposure and be able to obtain more of its dividend return as well. So probably at the next meeting, if not the one after that, we'll have that recommendation for you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Could I, Chairman, could I ask a quick question to the superintendent real quick?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Venetia, I guess the conversation you're having with our consultant and the bidding process, we're doing okay with your staff? Because I know we have a department that specializes in insurance.
Yes,
Consultant working very well with your subordinates?
yes.
Okay. Because I just want to, I guess, have a little comment in there, because, the insurance is such a, how can I give the correct adjective, right? Yes, yes. So I appreciate it for you and your staff to look into this, so thank you.
It's very difficult to understand a lot of the terms and a lot of the,
Absolutely.
deductibles, premiums, and whatnot, so.
Ma'am, with
Thank
all
you.
due respect, we forget it too. So sometimes I have to stop and take a hat off and put the other hat on. So.
And we do want to know, and thank you, Mr. Hernandez, that's an excellent question, because we do want to know if, and we do ask, if not the staff, we will ask Ms. Venencia, any concerns, any calls not being returned or reports or things not being turned in on time from either from you or from us to you. That's very important. That communication is very, very important because we certainly want to avoid all those problems before, we want to get in front of it before we have to meet and
Miss something.
make changes of some sort.
Well, if I can say, if I can be liberal, your staff has been on top of everything. They've provided us information when we needed it. They've been A+ with us. It's probably one of the easier working staffs that we've been able to work with. And I've been in this business a long time, so they've been very, very helpful. And actually, I thank them for that because it takes a lot of stress off of us. So, thank you so much.
It's a
Thank
win-win
you.
for everyone. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Mr. Garcia's question, and I apologize.
No,
but-
go ahead, sir. That's what we're here for.
I know when I was teaching, there's the enrollment, et cetera, so the Mercedes ISD insurance department, right? The risk, they're addressing the issue already. When's the enrollment for the staff?
I think it's ongoing right now as we.
Currently.
Okay, fair enough.
I wanted to add, Mr. Garza, thank you very much for mentioning that decrease in the premium of about $15,000. And it's good to know that, we'll be able to participate in that risk pool that we did. And thank you for just efficiently providing the services to our employees when they're, in most need with a work-related injury and workers' comp, and making it easy for them to get the services and the treatments that they need. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ms. Vallejo. I appreciate it. Appreciate those comments.
Are there any comments from the board? Hearing none, Mrs. Vanessa, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, administration is seeking approval
Uh,
of Texas Mutual Insurance submitted by Montalvo Insurance Agency.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Howe. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Discussion and possible action to award the RFP number 07-11-24-404 for the property and casualty for insurance for the 2024-2025 school year. Is that going to be you too, Mr. Garza?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
go right ahead, sir.
Once again, Mr. President, again, thank you so much for your time. This is probably one of the hot topics in Region 1 and probably in the state of Texas. One of them is that insurance is getting so complicated and so expensive that most people are starting to seek deductibles they can't afford. As you recall, last year we went out to bid and we brought the proposal to the district, and they had some substantial increases, one based on value. Your values in your districts have been reassessed, so you have more values here. And then you have the risk corridors that these companies are providing because of the catastrophic events that have happened last year and some of them are happening this year. So when we went out to bid, we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to increase any deductibles because we can't afford them anymore. So we have a 3% per occurrence deductible. So that one was very valuable, that we wanted to keep it there, maybe even less. But as we move further, we have flood insurance attached to these programs. So we have a lot of underlining programs. Now, just for the record, it's just not one company. It's multiple layer of companies that are insuring Mercedes ISD because your values are so high. So some of them take a $25 million risk, another will take $10 million, and so on until they reach the $100 million threshold. But in this particular case, we were able to decrease the premium. So we took the step in the right direction. It's a difference of $42,003 or 3.2%, which is a decrease. And if I could say, probably, it's the first decrease I've seen in the valley. So we're taking a step in the right direction, and we're very, very happy to report that it is a decrease. The last thing I want to do is report an increase and then try to explain to you why you got it. But this is an offer that's offering to decrease with no changes in the level of coverage. So we were actually pleasantly surprised with that offer. The casualty side, now this is your auto liabilities, this is your comprehensive insurance, your line items for errors and omission, educators' liability and general liability had the average increases due to, again, exposure, which is in the valley. You have your uninsured motorists, which you have to cover your buses, and you've got some new buses. Anyway, having said that, that one had an increase. okay? And it wasn't based on anything that y'all did, it's basically you're going with rate inflation factors. So that one had a $41,000 increase. So we were actually, we wanted to negotiate even further, but we're running out of time. The clock is ticking. We gotta print the cards for the buses, the liability cards. So we wanna be a little bit more aggressive. So next year, we're actually going to seek some pools to be able to quote the district rather than just the insurance carriers. So we're going to reach out to the Texas Association of School Boards, the Texas Political Subdivisions, and even the private carriers to be able to compete so that we can get these rates back under control again. So, and again, we're pleasantly surprised that the rate for the property went down. I apologize that the casualty side went up, but that's something it's happening across the country, so we can't stop that. But those are your risk factors. So we're recommending that you approve the property casualty with Waypoint and its carriers, and with Liberty Mutual for the casualty.
Is that your recommendation, too?
Yes, administration is making the recommendation for approval.
Okay, we have a, I'm sorry, were there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick
Go ahead.
question. I have a quick question before.
Go ahead, sir.
Chairman, this is, I was looking at, reading over my homework, but is it a one-year contract or two-year contract?
1 year.
Let me ask you then, it's fair to
Go ahead,
ask.
sir. Go ahead.
Is it best sometimes get a better deal if you go a 2-year or 3-year?
No,
Mr.
We-
Garcia?
don't let us do that.
Yeah, because these are insurance contracts, they expire at 12:01 a.m. on the last day.
Oh, they don't allow the,
Well, and I'll probably stand corrected later, but I'm gonna put it this way. If it ends at 12 a.m. on the expiration date, if it starts all over, it's a new contract. So that's why typically we go out to bid every year, because these are
Yeah,
insurance
basically
contracts.
what he's asking is they don't do more than 1 year
No,
policies.
multi-year, no. Sorry about that, Adam.
No problem. You had mentioned a possibility of doing that 9 months just to get a renewal date a little before the hurricane season
Yes,
started.
sir.
Did that, I guess that didn't transpire?
It's still an open option. We're still negotiating. Once we get that, we're going to go back and ask them again for a 9-month renewal with an expiration of possibly March 1st or April 1st, so that we can get out of the hurricane
So
season.
that's still the plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
hold on, Mr. Garcia. Just, yeah, I'm the farmer here. Can you elaborate a little bit on that point again? Because you had
Absolutely.
addressed it before, but can you refresh, I guess my
Yes, sir.
memory, I guess the board members, why would you go with a 9-month policy? Because you're trying to avoid the insurance, the
Yeah, it's-
hurricane that starts in,
Before hurricane season comes, like, right now, this past year, we got kind of lucky because right before that hurricane that was in the Gulf,
right,
if that would have come like during this time, we would have been locked in, we wouldn't have had a choice but to just go with the policy that we would have had.
so they would have locked us in on the.
Yeah, well, we would have had no choice because other companies ain't selling it. So,
Oh,
but if we
okay.
could do it before anything starts happening, it'll give us an advantage and even make it even possibly even more competitive. Because at this time, they know that we're gonna make a move.
So that's where the teamwork comes in, with the consultant with Ms. Venez's team and, okay. Got
So
it.
you may be approving a 12-month contract. We may have to get a credit back for possibly, 3 months or 4
3
months,
months.
depending. And
Thank
then
you.
we'll start March 1st or April 1st. That's your new contract year, and then move forward. So you'll never have to bid out during the summer hurricane months.
Season again.
Got it.
Because the insurance company, as soon as a hurricane hits the Gulf, they withdraw, all the offers are withdrawn. It cancels everything.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
I do have a comment, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Garcia. Mr. Garza, you mentioned Waypoint. Looking at the summary of the property wind and hail, there, a little bit of a decrease there, from 1.3 to 1.26. When you have all the other ones, it's only a $1,900 increase, but that's on the property and casualty,
Yes, sir.
right?
It nets out is the difference. The property, since we always go out for just property and then we go out for casualty, when you do them together, we present them together, sometimes it seems like your rates are going up when in some cases they're actually going down.
Yeah, I see the breakdown there.
Yeah, it gives us some breathing room, especially when we go back to negotiate with the carriers again.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, we do have a recommendation from the superintendent, so do I have a motion?
I so move.
A motion, Mr. Hernandez, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, from Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for
Thank
the
you, sir.
Thanks again.
Number 9, discussion and possible action to renew RFP number 05-17-23-388, voluntary employee insurance products. Mrs. Garza?
Yes. This RFP was approved last year with a 3-year guarantee rate. Just for the record, I wanted to bring it back for a renewal with the same, there are different carriers for different products, and I just wanted to renew it for this year as well.
Are there any questions from the board?
No, but back to, like on certain, not all policies, there's more flexibility on the, on this side where we do get guaranteed that 3-year. So
Oh, okay. Well, so I was gonna say, what was the
that
difference?
Yeah, that was just gonna say, yeah, it's just a different side of the insurance.
Okay,
So they allow it on the health side,
fair enough. Thank you.
volunteer, cancer, all that stuff. Well, hopefully nothing happens, but.
So the carrier changes, but not the rate.
Right, correct.
Do we have any other questions from the board? Hearing none, Ms. Vanessa, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, administration is seeking approval for the voluntary employee insurance products.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So move.
We have a motion, Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Number 10, discussion and possible action to approve the 90-day extension of the delinquent tax service agreement with Linebarger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson LLP. Mrs. Venecia?
Administration is seeking approval.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
90 days as of when, as of today?
It was last week, right?
Friday.
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 Okay.
Okay. So we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Vallejo. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Okay, we have a discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Chairman?
I'm sorry. Discussion. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt,
I
but,
think I had
so
called
I have a real quick question, because just, it was lingering in my mind. I just wanna know, so what happens, we revisit this topic again, it's, 3-3. What's the follow-up? What's gonna happen? We don't have, the tax attorneys anymore, or?
No, you can extend again. I mean, that's,
Okay, what if it's a tie again? There's no extension?
then you're not collecting taxes anymore.
Okay.
You won't have an agent, on behalf of Mercedes ISD to collect delinquent taxes. Now, there are certain obligations under contract, for them to continue certain processes that are in place.
Okay.
But as far as engaging in new collection, that would come to an end and not necessarily in the best interest of the public district.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. President, I believe the
Yes, sir.
discussion was that 90 days gives us a chance to look at or have staff look at the collection rate. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we do have a motion from, I believe it was Mr. Rodriguez, and a second from Mrs. Vallejo. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign.
Nay.
Nay. Let the record reflect that the motion passes 5-2. Oh, 5-3? My apologies, or 4-3, I apologize. With Mr. Howell, Mr. Martinez, and Mr. Hernandez voting negatively, or against. Moving on to number 11, discussion and possible action to approve the resolution regarding the 90-day extension of the Linebarger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson LLP delinquent tax service agreement pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 2254.1036, and notice provided to the public for legal services necessary to collect, for the collection of delinquent property tax. Mrs. Venecia.
Administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Vallejo, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign?
Yay.
1, 2. Okay. The motion passes 4-3 with Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Martinez, and Mr. Howe voting against. Moving on to B, facilities. 1, discussion and possible action to approve the hurricane fence change orders for fencing construction projects at Taylor Elementary, Chacon Middle School, High School Fields, and Mercedes Ag Complex. Mr. Herrera?
Good evening, Superintendent, Ms. Venencia, Board President, Mr. Garcia, trustees. Maintenance and Facilities is requesting approval for the change order for the hurricane fence to install additional fencing and gates at Taylor Elementary, Head Start, Sergeant Chacon, High School Fields, Mercedes ISD Agriculture Complex. The total amount for the change orders is $50,468.84. On this initial action request, we did include Chacon Middle School. However, the company was not able to submit the estimate for Chacon on time, so we did not include it on the estimate list. So therefore, we won't be able to move forward on any, additional needs for gates there at the campus until we bring it back to the board. However, at this time, we do have the change order request for the other campuses listed.
So then just for Taylor, the High School Fields, and the Ag Complex?
Yeah, it is for Taylor Elementary, Head Start, High School Fields, and Mercedes ISD Agriculture Complex.
And this should come, Ms. Venecia, from the Safety Facilities
Yes,
That's what I was gonna ask.
Fund.
Correct.
That grant.
yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Do we have any questions from the board? Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rivera, do we need the change orders?
We missed certain, after the installation of the current fencing, we did find some areas that needed additional fencing due to property perimeters such as at the high school, additional fencing for the softball area, just because the situation there with the egress, we have to separate the high school properties from the softball. We did also add additional gates to secure the softball from the practice fields that they use. In doing so, it goes from 4 feet to the 8 feet. Additional fencing to divide the long jump from the shot put area, and that fence line extends all the way from the north to the south point, closest to the egress, closest to the residential area. The gates that we missed at Taylor, it is the gate that opens to provide access to the housing, the residential area in that area. We did have to relocate it because the previous gate was in front of the retention pond, and we can't do that. The additional gate also for Head Start, which relocated, and they need access between their current office to the classrooms. And so there's some changes there that needed to happen in order to best provide egress and so forth, and fencing for our campuses. Agriculture, after the survey was conducted, we have to have 25 feet from the current canal that's in front of the agriculture complex. It's 25 feet. So they took apart the existing fencing. However, the gates still are now within the 25 feet. And we have to have the 25 feet according to the drainage department. So we have to relocate those current gates, the proper footage to back in order to make sure that the 25 feet is provided to the drainage Idalu precinct. In cleaning the canals, they use different big equipment, and so the 25 feet is required. What is existing there previous to the update stays, but what is newly installed has to be in compliance with the 25 feet.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I just wanted to thank you for clarifying that exclusion on the Chacon Middle School, because we did have it here included for approval in Chacon, and I didn't see a proposal, so that was my question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you for clarifying that it wasn't in the original bid.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Ms. Vacy, recommendation?
Yes, administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to consent agenda. I will start on my right. Ms. Vallejo, any items you'd like to pull, ma'am?
Yes. A2,
A2,
C5,
C5,
C10, D3,
D3,
and D6.
and D6. Okay. Mr. Hernandez, were there any you'd like to pull, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A10, D1, D4, and F1.
F1. Mrs. Delgado, or that was also, Mrs. Delgado, were there any you'd like to pull, ma'am?
No, no, sir.
Mr. Martinez? Mr. Howe? And I didn't have any, so can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda excluding A2, A10, C5, C10, D1, D3, D4, D6, and F1?
I so move.
A motion, Mr. Hernandez, do I have a second? Second from Mr. Howe. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. We will go ahead and start with A2, Mrs. Vallejo.
Yes, if we can have an update on that McCurry MOU, the McCurry University. I know it was put in place last year for our
Yes.
district and for our students, opening up opportunities. If we can have an update as far as to how our district utilized them this past year and how our students benefited from it, what opportunities were provided to our students and such.
Good evening, Board President, Mr. Garcia, Superintendent, Ms. Venecia, board members. Yes, McMurray initiative was brought in last year. It was a huge success at Ma. We had 45 students attempted, 38 passed the course. So we are bringing it back, and we are going to include it for the high school and for the Mercedes Early College.
And
Yes,
what
sir.
program was that, Mr. Garza?
McMurray University.
Yes, but the program itself, what they participated in? Could
It
you
was
elaborate
it
little
was
bit?
a math course, I believe.
It was the math dual enrollment course.
Yes, math dual enrollment
Ma.
course.
And you said 45 students,
45 attempted it and 38 passed.
38 passed?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the benefit to our students that passed?
Well, the benefit is that, one, if they go to, let's say, South Texas, they're not going to require their TSI because they've done the math, they passed the math course, so they skip the TSI and they can go into regular classrooms at college level.
Oh, okay, so this is an alternative to
Yes.
having them test the TSI
Yes.
math portion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what are we doing for those 7 that didn't pass? How are we working with those students?
I believe those graduated already? Yes, they graduated already.
So they were all seniors that participated in this
Yes.
program?
Yes. Yes. It was also brought in because for the campus CCMR, since they were able to pass those courses, the student was able to get the CCMR point.
Okay, is this exclusively for Ma, or is this
No, no, no,
available to
we're-
Mecca and to the high school?
It's for Mecca and the high schools.
Did we have any students participate
No.
from those campuses?
I believe not.
Did we open up the opportunity?
It was
Because I know
open.
this would be a great opportunity if we're having such a success with this passing rate.
Mm.
And I know we have a lot of students that have not passed the TSI. Did we present this to the high school and to Mecca?
So at the high school, we did have 15 students that participated. I believe all 15 did pass. We do have a meeting with South Texas College on the 3rd because we we are partnered with them, so we want to be mindful of what they do accept from our students and what they don't. So the math was one that they would accept because the credit at McMurray is less than South Texas College, but they did accept it for all students.
Okay. And we had no participants at Mecca?
No, this year we will.
Okay. But we will be looking into for this coming year?
Yes.
And the reason I'm stressing it is because I know that we had students that unfortunately, they were not successful with the TSI and specifically the math and graduated and are still, having to deal with that. So we can open up this opportunity if we're having such a high success rate for our students.
And I do want to note that even though they are taking the course, we still are pushing TSI. So there is still going to be remediation for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to, Chair, I'd like to add a little comment about that. I apologize, I'm just getting the tail of the whole discussion about it. But I gotta stand up for the students as well, because, here's a state pushing the STAR initiatives. And if you even look at the assessment under the TSI, these are totally different mathematics. I mean, literally, they go back to almost the 50s, 60s mathematics. And sometimes I have to make a distinct between TSI and the STAR and the Texas educational system. I'll probably get in big trouble with TEA, but I'm retired already, so I can make that comment. But TSI is tough, so just do the best you can. Work hard on it. I think they'll get better at it. Thank you.
And Mr. Garza, is there any other programs that our students can benefit similar to this one?
Not currently that I can, no.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
Well, you have TSTC, right?
Oh, yes, we're still sending our students to TSTC for those programs that we have HVAC, we have mechanics, machining, mechatronics, precision machining also. So we're still offering TSTCs to all the campuses, 3 high schools.
I just saw it on the news, and I know you probably wouldn't qualify, but the aviation, did you see that? How they're having those aviation classes?
Yes.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is actually. We looked into it and
It was pretty pricey.
it was pretty pricey.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Like 20 grand a head or what?
No, it's more like 12, something like that.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions or comments on the item?
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Thank you.
Hearing none. Do we have a recommendation to approve?
Yes, administration is seeking approval.
Okay, do we have a motion? on
So
the rec-
moved.
A motion from Ms. Vallejo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. I'm gonna go through all Mrs. Vallejo's and then we'll go through.
Okay, all right.
So then we're gonna go to C5, Business Office. Mrs. Vallejo.
Yes, on this one, we have discussion and possible action to approve the purchase of a commercial lawnmower for the ag farm. And I had a question. Did something happen to our current lawnmower? I know I was
No.
out there and I would see Mr. Flores with our lawnmower. Is there a reason why?
Actually, we never had one. We had the tractor, the
Right.
John Deere tractor, but we never had a lawnmower. We would always have to, Mr. Herrera would lend it to us for maintenance. So we're requesting the purchase of a commercial lawnmower so Mr. Flores can finish up the yard there.
So that would be exclusively for the ag farm?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they had a riding lawnmower which travels about 3 to 4 miles, and versus a zero turn 72-inch covers a lot more area, and it cuts pretty much at 8 miles per hour up to 10. So the time that he uses in the ag farm he has a lot of responsibility. So the better equipment that we can provide, the more efficient he can do his work.
Do we have something similar to the district for the other campuses?
Oh yeah, we have yes, we have.
It's just the ag farm that didn't
Yes,
have one?
the ag farm didn't have one. And so we would do a checkout system. We even checked out a big backpack blower, so that he can help them. Instead of using the broom, where the areas that need to be cleaned, we check checked out a blower for him so he could use. And so we have equipment, however, it's our backup equipment, so when our equipment has to be replaced, we always have one available. And so it was only right that we check out a tractor for him so he can do his job a lot quicker.
Thank you for the clarification.
But will you be able to use, just once, let's say that, you have those lawnmowers, let's say at the facilities where the practice fields, the soccer fields and all that, the baseball and all that, they would be able to use one of those for the act farm?
Yes, but the equipment that we lend out to him is our older equipment that we have as backup. The new equipment we utilize for our fields. And so this is just the one that we checked out to him is one of the few. Actually, we had to pick it back up because we had to do repairs on one of our newer zero turns that we use for the big fields.
That's what I'm saying, but would you be able to, like, that the facilities are being more used? I would think that that's what you would want to use the newer stuff. You know, not too many are using this facility, but you have, 600 students using these facilities. Would you want to use that on that facility?
Well, I believe
Especially if it's,
these funds are specifically CTE.
CT,
Funding.
Yeah,
yes,
so that one will be used for anywhere else,
no,
just for that.
yes.
Emergencies, we've always, but really CT equipment is CT.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, is there any recommendation from the administration?
Yes. Administration seeking approval.
And we have a recommendation from the administration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Mrs. Vallejo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. C10, Mrs. Vallejo.
Yes, we have the discussion and possible action to renew the HHSC Medicaid Administrative Claimant contract. If you can fill us in.
Yes,
Ma'am.
absolutely. The MAC program is a cost-based reimbursement where we draw down funds for matching, for matching funds for activities that facilitate the services that are provided to Medicaid-eligible students. So what we do is we submit those expenses to HHSC, and they help reimburse us for a portion of those services. The contract is for a term of 5 years. And I believe that their fees are 5% from whatever it is that we submit for reimbursement.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I just had a comment. How are we doing, ma'am, with the submission? I know in the past when we came on board, a lot of the services weren't being sent out to that third party to get billed, so therefore the district was losing and we weren't getting that reimbursement. So how was it this past year as far as to all those services that were provided? Were they all sent out to that third party for billing so that we can have that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. We have been working really hard to try to get some of that information, and I know that Special Ed has also had some administration change. We're working with Ms. Luna to get all that information. Their portion of the process is to update that participant list so that we can turn around and extract that list and use it as we download some of those reports from our general ledger to be sure that we are submitting as much as we can. Also, it goes back to the making sure that the student or that they have the parents sign off on the Medicaid claim, making sure that we are allowed to actually seek reimbursement. And so as long as they have that in place, then we're able to seek that reimbursement from HHSC.
Okay. And Dee, would you happen to know if we went back and if we did, an in-house audit on those services that weren't sent out? Were we still within that time frame to submit it so that they could still be
Yes,
billed
yes
within
and
that
no.
time frame?
And yes and no. We did go back to verify some of that information, which we use every time we do a submission. We go back and we check, okay, what was submitted last month? Are there any new employees? Are there any employees that we need to take out? Are they any new students that came on board that, we're seeking to make sure that they have that approval to be able to request a reimbursement? So we're always checking that list and making sure that it is updated. Now, there are only certain people that are allowed to do the submission because they need the proper training. So once they take the training, then they're eligible to be able to submit. And our TSBS, the company that we work with, they're the ones that prepare all of the background. We send the data to them, they prepare the background, and then I go in there and certify it. And so once it's certified, we notarize and then send it back to them so that they can submit the reimbursement. Right now, the reimbursement is kind of low.
That's what I was gonna ask
I
for,
wanted to see it.
reimbursement rate where we're
Yeah.
standing with the services that
I
are being
believe that our
submitted.
reimbursement is around $1,000 a quarter, and so I'd like to increase that. So I wanna sit with the special ed director to see
We
if.
only have 1,000 per quarter?
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. Something about 1,100, I think this last time was about $1,000.
So what percentage are we looking at as opposed to the services that are going out to be billed? If we're only receiving 1,000 a quarter, that's like, seems really
Yes,
low.
this is only the MAC portion of it. Now, there's the CHARS portion of it, which is a lot larger. But the MAC portion is usually, it's only on the services that the employees provide, not on the services that are provided to the student. So, depending on the number of employees that are working on those, with those parents and those students, is all we can request from reimbursement. So the MAC is always a little lower than the CHARS.
But this low?
I looked back on some of the previous ones, and they're around the same amount.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any other questions from the board? Any comments? Hearing none, do we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Yes, administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the administration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mrs. Vallejo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to D3, Mrs. Vallejo.
Yes, on this next item for the donation to Mercedes ISD, I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Jose Salazar for his donation to the Mercedes High School cheer in the amount of $300. So thank you very much.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, do we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Yes, administration seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So, motion from Mrs. Vallejo. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Howell. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to D6, Mrs. Vallejo.
Yes, on this one, the discussion possible action to approve renewal for the security Voice Safe School Helpline. If we can get a little insight on the services and if they were utilized last year, what's available to our staff and our community?
Okay. Good evening, Board President Garcia, Superintendent Venecia, Board. Yes, the Security Voice Safe School Helpline, the use overall is not high, to be completely frank. I think over the last couple of years, we've received somewhere along the lines of 14 calls, from students. Now, one of the things that we are trying to do this school year is, of course, getting the word out a little bit more for our students, so that if there are any issues, any concerns, they can go ahead and call the hotline for any support that they may need. Now, in reference of needing it, I know that's part of a Senate Bill 279, so it is a requirement that they have, and the whole point is for the mental health and behavior support that I know we need to provide our students. But again, moving forward, part of the administrative training that we had at the beginning of the year did revolve around, again, encouraging the support for the use of the hotline and getting the word out to our students and staff.
So it may just be the awareness.
Yes, I mean, it is posted on our website, but I know our students don't tend to visit our websites too much, but
That's what I was going to
yes.
ask is, how are you anticipating promoting that awareness to
Well,
make
and
sure
I think that
they're
was
better
one of the things
informed
is,
that that's available?
is possibly getting with our IT department and seeing if it's something that can be added as part of the suite that's provided to our students. But again, I think the word of mouth, the counseling services that we do offer, any type of group presentations that we may have, I think it'd be advantageous to our students if it's presented in that manner.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing
Thank
none.
you, Mr. Chacon.
Hearing none, does the superintendent have a recommendation?
Yes. Administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Vallejo. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Mr. Rodriguez's items. We will start with A10. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, on this item, I did inquire with the superintendent, and she did provide much of the information that I needed. I just had one quick question in addition to what I had requested, and that was the use of the exit tickets, grades 3 through 5 for ELAR and SLAR. That was 30% of the total grade. The independent practice 60% and the assessments 10%.
Yes, so basically, good evening, by the way. Good evening, everybody. Ms. Venecia, board president and board members. We did meet with the elementary principals and the academic coaches. As you know, Amplify is new this year, so it's a big change from what we're used to pulling for grades. But basically, the exit tickets are within the Amplify curriculum.
Okay.
So they're teaching a skill, and then before the end of the lesson of that section, of the knowledge section, they have an exit ticket. And it's basically something for the teacher to be able to see, did my kids master the skill that was being taught, or did they not get it?
Formative assessment.
Exactly, basically. And then the assessments, the 10%, is basically like our benchmarks and our checkpoints.
And since they are formative, typically not assessed, formally. I mean, it can, but
So,
how strict or?
so what the coaches, I should say, when the coaches meet with the teachers to review the next lesson coming up, that's something that they decide. We did the same when we did Eureka. Eureka had certain components in the curriculum that we had to go through and say, okay, this week we're going to choose this exit ticket. So it's basically going through and seeing what is it asking of the students to do.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, do I have a recommendation, Mr. Superintendent?
So
Yes.
moved. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Administration is seeking approval.
I have a motion from, recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Howe. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to D1, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, I did ask the superintendent if there were any changes between last year's, I'm sorry, this is D1, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just had a comment on this. I was looking at the transfers, and I was glad to see that I believe there were 64 transfers from out-of-district into Mercedes ISD. 26 of them were brand new. So congratulations to our team out there, putting our best face forward. To those that are making calls, come back to Mercedes. We can just continue so that we can get that enrollment up, and the AD obviously goes with it. But good job. Glad to see those numbers.
So do we have a any other comments? I'm sorry. Hearing none, do we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Yes, administration is seeking approval.
All right, we do have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to D4, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, as I was saying earlier, just wanted to find out what were the main differences between last year's code of conduct and this year's?
Yes, sir. In looking at the code of conduct, of course, we do meet with the campus safety coordinators to start reviewing some of the changes. Some of the changes that did come in, I know on page 9 on the if you scroll through the code of conduct, there's a statement there on UIL absences, well, any type of absences for UIL activities. I know that was a change that was implemented last year. So we went ahead and put it in the code of conduct there as well. Just a statement on Sentinel. Sentinel is a new database that the state is now asking for districts on. We have to go in there, input all of the safety measures that we've taken, any type of audits that we may have, any type of door sweeps, things of that nature, all have to go on Sentinel. And of course, that does include any type of behavior threat assessments that we may have. So whenever there's an issue with any of our students, any type of threat, or even any psychological issues that may warrant a certain level of intervention, we do have to meet as a campus committee, as a behavior threat committee, and determine whether or not it meets certain criteria. And that information does also need to be stated on Sentinel now. So that statement did go into the code of conduct. Some changes to dress code. It was recommended that we, for the elementaries, to allow any color polos. I hear it looks, I haven't had a chance to get out there during one of the lunches, but I hear it's very colorful, and it's actually, it's going well with that. We did put in the statement on the Crown Act as well, because that is a big one, and I know there was some information that came out that some districts are still really not adhering to the guidelines that are set forth by the state in terms of the Crown Act. So I went ahead and put that in there. So there was some removal of some of the hair requirements that we had. Now, one of the things that one of the adjustments that I am gonna recommend here moving forward, though, is I'm gonna go back in. I know there was a removal of facial hair because, again, looking at current trends and so on and so forth, a lot of our students are using facial hair. But there's a statement that will be going in so that to state that it is allowed. However, it needs to be trimmed. It needs to be look somewhat presentable. We don't want the scraggly look. But again, will be allowed, but with certain limitations.
Let me make a comment on that Crown Act you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
Listened to the radio the other day, and they had some people from the media actually referencing certain districts that were not complying
Right.
with the Crown Act, and they were calling them out
Right.
For this. And I know it's a hot button issue right now in different parts of the country, but I'm glad that you've already adhered to the changes needed in this, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. In addition, also that came about through a recent webinar that we sat through, they did mention that they would like to see a statement on a hit list. Any student that creates hit lists, that needs to be listed under major offenses, along with in discussions of some of the issues that we've had here on our campuses, is additions that state anyone suspected under the influence is also listed as a major offense as well, because that has come into play here as of late over the last couple of years. And the big addition that we did add is at the end of the code of conduct, there was an extracurricular code of conduct that we now put on there, just different guidelines that we have to follow, and things that we have for any of our students that are participating with the extracurriculars, along with some of the procedures that we need to have in place in order to address those issues in a timely manner.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course.
Please.
And I'm so glad that you, on your last item, the extracurricular.
Yes, ma'am.
I would ask that you, and Ms. Valencia, so sorry. On that last item that you just mentioned.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so glad that you bring it up. The extracurricular activities, I would ask of you and Ms. Valencia to monitor this as well. Work closely with the attendance clerks.
Okay.
Okay, because I know that was sort of like an issue in the last year or so, where there was a lot of, absenteeism, and
Yes.
and then, then they would show up for practice or a certain particular game, a particular
Correct,
event.
correct,
you know.
okay.
And it's not only, sports,
Of
can
course,
be
yes.
other.
Yeah, and I think,
extracurricular.
working closely with campus administration along with the sponsors that we have for said
Yes.
programs, whatever extracurricular it may be, that they too are aware that they need to go in and verify and ensure that our students are actually attending class and not just showing up for any type of event that they may have. So, thank you. Yes, we will monitor and keep an eye on that.
Thank you,
Of course.
appreciate it.
Was there any other comments from the board? Questions? Hearing none, do we have a recommendation?
Yes, administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion? So move. I have a motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to F1, technology, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, this is just a comment. I know that we engaged with this particular, with Region 1 before on this particular item. I just want to make sure that everyone understands just the amount of savings we're getting from enrolling in the Region 1 co-op for the different technology services that our librarians use. The different videos and newspaper articles, the research resources, EBSCO, in addition to the new, from what I understand, the new Discovery Education that has come back, but new and updated with a big variety of different related videos as resources, and also includes the resources for ACT and SAT test prep and other things. So I know that if we had to order it, subscribe to these individually, it'd be almost from what I have here, almost $250,000 that we'd have to pay individually, and we're only asking for 17,000 more or less. Mr. Hendy?
That's correct, yes, sir. Because it is bundled, the district does have a tremendous cost savings. The district, I talked to Ms. Saldaña, the head librarian. The district has used this cooperative for 35 years, so it's been a while. And because we buy in volume with other districts in the valley, there is a tremendous cost savings.
Right.
For a lot of different databases, ebooks, libraries. You mentioned some, Learn 360, different encyclopedias, test prep for the ASVAB, for the military, for CTE tests. It's lots of professional development as well.
It's a good deal.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Administration, do we have any other questions?
Administration is seeking approval.
All right, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion? So move. A motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second from Mr. Howell? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Executive session, A, personnel pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code and attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. 1, resignations, terminations, appointments, evaluations, reassignments, duties, and discipline of professional, paraprofessional, and non-contract employees, teacher substitutes and substitutes for maintenance, transportation, and cafeteria department. B, student discipline pursuant to section 551.082 and 551.0821 of the Texas Government Code, personally identifiable information about a public school student. C, discussion and private consultation with the attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation, settlement matters, and/or matters where the professional duty under the state board requires private consultation with the school attorney. D, board self-evaluation and possible censure of a board member requested by O. Hernandez and L. Delgado. The time is now 7:39, and this board is in executive session.